Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries of partnerships and channel on a weekly basis. My name is Rick van der Bos and I'm the CEO and founder at Chanext, and I'm here together with Alex Whitford, VP Partners at Chanext. Alex, how are you doing today?
Well, we're discussing my favorite subject in the world today, so yeah, really pleased to be here.
Likewise, I think lately there's been a lot of chat on LinkedIn and discussion around when should I recruit new partners, but also how many. And not just that, if I know how many, how should I then recruit them? And I thought for today it might be fun to dive into specifically that topic.
Yeah, for sure. I think recruiting partners is one of the absolute best ways to scale your partnership and your channel model. It's something I've spent years and years, I think, perfecting the art of doing that well, both at a micro level and a macro level, from doing it at distribution, cross Europe, but also I ran distribution strategy at Zoom, where I think we recruited almost 1,200 partners in the time that I was there. So really macro recruitment strategy. And so that's really taught me a lot in terms of the way to do it effectively, depending on the maturity model of your channel.
Yeah, and if you look at partner recruitment as such, and that's the question we get so often, where people ask, like, how many partners should I recruit? How many partners should I have? What's your vision on that? Where would you start if you would have to analyze that as a channel manager or head of channel, head of partnerships? Where do you start in terms of determining what you should focus on at that moment?
Well, the first thing I do is analyze where I am in the maturity of my channel design, right? So I think the mistake most people make is, one, they recruit too many partners, and two, they start the recruitment process too early in their own maturity model. So what you want to be really just coherent and thoughtful about is, if you recruit a partner and they are not successful, they are very unlikely to partner with you down the line. And so what you want is the minimum amount of partners that you can almost guarantee success with. So if you're in the early stages, you're in your startup phase of building your channel and your partnerships model, you want to test with a few partners, the fewer the better, that you know are selling to the types of end users you want to sell to, and really be proactive around defining what your ideal partner profile looks like, your IPP, and then start there. And build agnostically is the other thing I would say. So often people go, oh, I want to work with this partner, usually because they've worked with them before, which is not a great design. But also they start with that partner and potentially it was the right partner and it works, but that means that needs to define your IPP. So build your IPP agnostically. Don't have a partner name in mind. More have the partner responsibilities in mind, and then recruit a few partners that fit that profile to test if that profile is correct.
Yeah, I fully agree there. And I think it's something we spoke about in previous podcasts as well. The number one thing is to keep in mind is that you should never want to scale what's not working yet. So that's why it's so crucial what you are saying there, where you start with a select amount of partners, you make them successful in a repeatable way, that is not just a one-time lucky shot. And only if you figure that out, that's when you start scaling to the next phase, right?
Yeah, exactly that. I think, there's a lot of synergies to be blended with sort of building a startup business. Once you've found product market fit, you can start to really invest in inbound marketing and really try and drive hyperscale. But until you found product market fit, you can't and shouldn't do those activities. The same is true of partner market fit. Unless you know you've got a repeatable and measurable and predictable business flow, you shouldn't be looking to add volume. You should be looking to be really targeted. Remember, the first few months or even years of building your channel and your partner program are designed around building the program. So learning and building the most accurate and best process you can. And then you look to add volume.
And I think that's why it's so important in the start of your program, right? That you don't start automating everything yet, but that it's indeed very much a human-to-human process where you learn as much as possible, where you get as much feedback from your partners as possible, work very closely with them, preferably have many one-to-ones and catch-ups together and getting back the feedback, quarterly business reviews, so to really get into the right zone and find out as much as knowledge about the partners and the market together as possible, and then utilize all that information, turn it into processes, automation, and really start working towards a future scaling channel.
100%, and I love that word, feedback. We talk a lot about in this business that negative feedback isn't negative, it's positive, right? It's the fact that if a customer tells you your product doesn't work here, or a partner tells you the process doesn't work, that's not negative feedback. That's an opportunity to improve the process. And right now, if you're in that early stages of building your channel, building a partner program, what you should be much more focused on is not the revenue is the outcome, but instead the process and perfecting that process. Because once you have a perfect process, the revenue will be amazing, right? And too often I see partner teams patting themselves on the back because they hit number, which is obviously important, but it might just have been a bluebird deal that landed in your lap and you didn't really do anything for. That doesn't mean your partner program works well. That didn't mean your partners were really effective. It just meant you hit the number. Conversely, you can absolutely smash the number if consistently you're over improving and delivering on the process. And so that has to be everyone's first priority, and feedback is the best way to do that, because partners will tell you where you're winning, where you're losing, and how to improve.
Yeah, they are closest to the market and the end user, so they are your most valuable resource to learn those things.
And they're probably selling your direct competitor, or they're selling your alliance product. They're aware of the partner programs that are working versus aren't working. Asking questions like, who do you like working with and why, will give you a really clear indication around that partner's priorities, and then how you can build your partner program around their success. Remember, partner success is your success. If you can build a strategy and a process and a product that enables them to be very successful, you in turn will be very successful.
Yeah, so if we look at that partner maturity model, probably we could say that phase one of your, it's even partner program maturity level. I think phase one of your partner program maturity is startup indeed. Start with a select number of partners, make sure you make it work, that you get success together with them, that they stay your partner, etc. Then the second phase is ramping up. So you found initial partner market fit where you see that some things are repeatably winning, and then you start trying to do it with more partners. And then the third phase is really doing it at scale, right? Where you get in as many partners you need as possible, but also are capable of making all those partners successful and not see many of those partners turn inactive eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think partner churn is a really great barometer for where you are in that maturity model. If you're experiencing a lot of partner churn, you haven't found partner market fit. And so one of the things that we see a lot in partner programs and in business is people think they are further along that maturity model than they are. They've closed 2 or 3 partners. They've like, oh, we found partner market fit, and now we're going to chuck scale. What actually happens is they haven't churned yet, but you're yet to give them enough time to see if they churn. And if instead what you do is then recruit another 100 partners who dilute the wallet share of all the partners, then you get mass partner churn, you've ruined your reputation, and it can, in fact, spell the end of that entire partner program. So you want to be really, really cautious in guaranteeing success in a small base before you look to start adding volume.
Yeah, I think you're touching upon the first phase in a very nice way already. Maybe it's nice that we start there indeed, and I think that's probably answering most of the question, when should I not recruit new partners, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think, look, partnerships and any revenue business is all about the number at the end of the day. However, if you're designing a partner program, there has to be an understanding that there is going to be a longer runway than direct sales because you're less in control of the deal cycle. What you want to do is understand who your ideal end user is, your ICP, and then who is the ideal partner who sells to that end user. Go and recruit, and I really mean like 5 partners tops, maybe even just 1 as your initial outset, and beta test the program, right? Run a couple of deals through them, maybe deals that you've generated to feed them, and understand, do we have sales, marketing, technical, and operations covered? They really understand how to be successful, and they start to become self-sufficient, i.e. they are not a successful partner if the only thing they do is facilitate deals you've generated. You still have not found partner market fit, even with 1 partner. They have to be capable of finding opportunities, opening and closing those opportunities almost independently. If you've got there, great. You've got partner market fit with 1 partner. That still isn't partner program market fit. You need to expand that out. maybe cover a different territory, cover a different language, maybe try and automate some of that process. And that's how you start to pivot from that startup to preliminary scale-up phase.
I think the number one way to achieve partner market fit is by making sure you close the partner recruit to revenue gap. And what we mean is that you create this repeatable process where you have it from partner agreement signed until self-sustainable revenue. So that's the onboarding, that's the training, that's the co-marketing, the co-selling together. That you really have a very strong process there to guide your partners throughout that process and bring them towards self-sustainable revenue. And I fully agree there with you. Like if you have that with multiple partners, not just with one, but really with a significant amount of partners, that's when you can start seeing, oh, now we really are getting into that repeatability trajectory.
Yeah, and what I love, and it's something we're really, really passionate here at Chanex, is that self-sustainable revenue model, right? Having 100 partners who you have to feed deals to and really manage sales cycles with and do a lot of work, to me, is worse than having 2 partners who just independently generate and close revenue on your behalf. Because that really is what the whole partnership model is about. You might have to feed them in the outset to close that sort of engagement gap, but the idea is that they become self-sufficient. Why is that better? Because the one person who closed and generated and made those 2 partners self-sufficient can now go on to another 2 partners and another 2 and another 2 and another 2. And that's how you get that hockey stick growth, because after a while, you don't have 2 partners who are self-sufficient, you have 20, and that really is dangerous. And the whole idea is if you can get to that self-sufficient model, you can then automate as much of that process as you can. So instead of that one person recruiting and enabling 2 partners and then 2 partners and then 2, it looks something like 2 partners and then 3 partners and then 5 partners and then 7 partners and then 10 and then 20 and then 40. And then you really have exponential growth because you're driving all of those partners to be independently and self-sufficiently successful.
And I think with self-sustainable revenue, we mean that partners can find new customers, close new customers, implement those customers, and make them successful on the long run, right?
Yeah, and get the renewals at the end of the year, right? That's also such a key critical bit that's driving your hockey stick, and why so many VCs are so focused on making sure that all the businesses they invest in have these partnership programs is the data is clear. Partner-led sales wins time and time again in the long run, right? Loads of businesses do a really good job in their first funding round because they just hire a direct sales team and they close. Brilliant, works really well. But if you want to hit, really significant levels of revenue, partner-led sales works because of that self-sufficient program, which is you can scale your sales team so much further through partnerships, and that's why you've got to be driving towards self-sufficient revenue. Otherwise, you haven't scaled your sales team.
No, fully agree there. I think once you got through phase 1, so you see some first repeatability, not much yet, but you are ready to start recruiting some partners. Like also there where people say, yeah, I think I got my process for the number of partners I have right now. I think I got it sorted quite well, but then they still have that question, but how many partners should I recruit now? Where would you start with that? Like you go into second phase, so ramping up your partner program?
Yeah, so first the first piece of advice I'd give everyone is the least partners possible, because the reason I say that is it's better for everyone involved. One, it's better for you because I would rather hit my target with 3 partners than 100 partners. It's much easier to manage. Second, it's better for the partners because they're splitting less of the wallet around. They're not going to be coming up in competition against 7 other partners who are all positioning the same product. And third, it's better for the end user because the partners live and die by that product. They understand that product better, and so they know who to go and speak to. So first, focus on the minimum partners possible. The second calculation then is how much revenue do you need to achieve, and work out how many deals that is. If a partner's capable of closing, for simple maths, 1 deal a month, so 12 deals, and you need to close 100 deals in a year, well, you need 8 partners then, because that would be 8 deals a month, 8 times 12, 100, you're there. And that's the level of sort of detail I'd be working back with. Build in a little bit of fat, because obviously not all partners are going to close at 100% success rate, but you want to be focused on the minimum viable until you work out how to get into phase 3, which is then automated recruitment, automated closing, and really scaling that process. But the last thing you want to do is just suddenly start recruiting a load of channel account managers, then recruit hundreds of partners, and then you end up diluting your channel and killing yourself.
Yeah, indeed. If you have that, then you get to what a lot of companies are struggling with that are actually already in scale but don't have their full process ready yet, where you see that 80% of the partners are inactive in the average partner program. And that's such a pity indeed, because then all your recruitment efforts together with your team, 80% of that goes down the drain.
Yeah, it's operational lag, and it's really, in my opinion, one of the things that kills partnerships, because the partners will remember you. You might think, oh, we recruited them, then they churned, it's fine, we'll re-engage with them. No, it won't work. Most of the time, those partners think, I've tried you once, we did a couple of deals, then you left me alone, you treated me really badly. They're left with a bad taste in their mouth. In fact, they're probably going to replace you once the renewal comes up with a competing product, and maybe that other vendor has spent far more time getting them engaged and self-sustainable, and suddenly you've burnt that bridge. And I've seen people do that at a country level, right, where they went and targeted all the top AV partners, burnt them, and then now they really, really struggle in that area because now they've put more money into their partner program and they've reinvested. They have to spend 6 to 8 months going back into all those partners and promising them, sorry, this time we will do better. So less is more, until you've really worked out how to automate that process and really done some analysis to say, actually, we want to pivot from 10 partners to 150. We're really confident on the revenue capability, and we're really confident on our partner program to not just recruit 150, but make 150 partners really successful so they're all fully bought into our proposition.
Yeah, that's crucial, because if you've burned a partnership, it takes so much energy to get them back on track again. Sometimes it's literally impossible because they don't feel about it anyhow. But if it's still possible, then it's 3 times as much as work than getting into a new partner where you have a strong proposition, a strong onboarding process, a strong process to make them successful and get them to self-sustainable revenue. Because that's what we keep saying again and again. The best way to keep the attention of your partners is by helping them to generate revenue and continuously making them feel that they can grow their business together with you, right?
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing that's really important to remember in your recruitment strategy is not all partners are born equal, right? Some partners are really high value and high priority. And I've seen it time and time again where you moved for one of the big boys too quickly. You went after a Deloitte or an Accenture, one of the big GSIs, and you moved too quickly when you didn't really have your ducks in a row and you weren't ready. You burnt that bridge. That's never coming back, right? Because no one internally in those businesses is going to stake their reputation on bringing a vendor on board that ultimately failed. They look embarrassed. They're never going to take that risk again, and probably they're going to be quite annoyed with you. And so in those instances, I would be spending far more time guaranteeing success within those high value, high priority partners, because you can get your macro recruitment strategy right, and that's really great if you can do that. But there are micro focuses that you want to allow a lot of time and a lot of resource to win with, because there is always an 80-20. Even if none of your partners have churned, there's always going to be a 20% of partners that are delivering your 80% of revenue. And usually when I look at a list of partners, I can give you very clear answers on the ones that, if you get it very right, will deliver the volume of revenue. And most of the people who have any real level of experience within the channel in EMEA can tell you that list. And if you've got any question, please chuck me a DM. But there is a list of partners that, you know, if you get it right, they will be key players. Don't recruit those too early before you've really got your program in place.
Preferably really start with boutique partners who are very specialized in a certain vertical or in a certain type of product solution they're offering to the market, because there you can really try and work together as well. Usually those partners are a little bit smaller than the really large ones, so you give yourself some more slack, but also those partners love to work with new type of products because that makes them unique to the market as well when you're just entering there. I think maybe for our listeners it would be nice to discuss a case. So let's say I am in ramp-up phase and I want to enter the UK market, specifically focus with the partner revenue team on banks and insurance company. Like, where would you start if you would have to, and you would have to give me a calculation or a number, like how many partners do you think we should recruit? Like, what process could you
Sure.
take us through that someone can take there?
Sure. So first I'd go, right, how many customers, end users, do we need to close? What's the average deal cycle? What's the average deal time frame? I.e. it takes 8 months to close a deal. And how many deals is an individual partner capable of closing on a yearly basis, if we're talking about a year target? I then work that number backwards. So if we need to close 10 deals and each partner can close 3 deals, well, it's pretty simple maths. 3 partners can close 3 deals each. That's 9 partners. I'll probably recruit 5 partners to give myself a bit of tolerance. I then invest all of my time and resources into defining what type of partner we need, so what my ideal partner profile is, and I go and very strategically recruit 5 partners. I do not recruit 6. The bet is made at the start of the year and full focus on making that bet happen. If at the end of the year my maths was wrong and my calculation was wrong for whatever reason, fine. We'll understand that and we'll discuss that internally as part of the business. But I will get everyone internally baselined on, here's the reason I've chosen 5. Here's the reason I've chosen these 5 partners. Here's the resource I need to make that happen. Here are the lead and lag measures I'm tracking to ensure success over that time frame. And I really, really drive focus. The amount of times I've seen people do that calculation and then get distracted and recruit more partners because some other partners put their hand up and supposedly were interested and really committed, and then it turned out they weren't. They just heard of a deal and they wanted to get involved. And then what happens is you almost guarantee failure. Precision is the art of the startup, right? You want to be really, really focused and accurate early on. And then later down the line, once you've got a volume of accuracy, you can then just start to chuck more things at the program and have a go and really drive expansion, but only once you found real partner market fit.
Yeah, and if you go into a new market and you want to find out which partners do I need to recruit, start with the market. So start talking to the ideal customer profile you defined. Talk with many of those customers. Ask them which partners are you working with already, and then do some mapping and see, is there an overlap between one partner that is working for multiple customers there? And if you get into that motion, then you find out which partners are very strong in that region and in that vertical. And those are the partners you want to try and build relationships with. And preferably enter that partnership where you can immediately give them something. So an interesting customer in their area you're already working with. I think that's really important if you are going into ramp-up phase with your partner recruitment.
I think that's a really great point to walk back from the end user. I know something we've spoken a lot about is, how do you think you should also handle the alliance co-sell proposition when you're building your channel?
Together, yeah, I think that's indeed one of the most interesting things if you're going channel plus alliance. Look which alliances you might already have. Let's say you're already working with some alliances in the US, and then you want to move towards the UK. Look if there are already alliances who have a strong position in the UK. Then see how you can bring that joint value proposition in their channel partners that they're already working with. And then you can do a tag-along sale where you can move very quickly in terms of recruiting the partner, but also probably higher deal velocity because they can accompany your proposition in their proposition they're already working on with your alliance partner.
For sure. And the thing that's really important about that alliance proposition is if you have to have a speed to develop a partner program, that speed to market is amazing. You can shortcut a load of partner market fit work by doing that co-sell motion. So the example I always use, if you've got an Azure product and it works into Azure and it's a great upsell for end users in terms of it really builds into the Microsoft ecosystem, and it's a great upsell for partners who can build into that Microsoft ecosystem, great. You can shortcut a load of the work. You can go and find out who the key Azure partners are, who are selling into your ICP, and then go and build a proposition. You can find partner market fit much faster doing that. So if you have high targets or a really, really high pressure situation where you need to deliver an immense amount of partner value quickly, think alliance first, not just ICP, because if you can fold those two strategies in together, you can shortcut a lot of work.
Yeah, I fully agree there. And then you got like 2 engines running there and you can go twice as fast in many cases as well.
Yeah, you've got the double network effect, which VCs are usually very focused on, because if you've got one network effect, you can grow quickly. If you've got 2, you can go really fast.
All right. And then I think finally then we got towards partner market fit, or at least we got there closer to there. So we have a program that makes our partners successful. We're also seeing some good traction where we can go into new regions or new verticals and implement it there. And then the final phase is partner recruitment at scale. What do you need to have in place to start with mass recruitment?
Sure. So I'm going to just give you a little sales analogy because I think it's the thing that most people will understand. When you start doing direct business and you try and hit hyperscale, you do not triple the amount of BDRs you have. You focus on inbound demand generation because that's got the real lever that you can drive a significant amount of value. The same is true of partner recruitment. If you want to drive hyperscale, you need to focus on automation. What some people will do is go, I'm going to hire 4 times the amount of cams I've got, and that's going to drive hyperscale. One, no, it won't, because it just means you've got 4 times the operational lag, 4 times the cost, and then you're not actually delivering hyperscale, because hyperscale is the outsized return. That's insized return. It's going to be the same base. You've just got wider cost base and therefore higher growth. Instead, focus on automation. So what can you automate in terms of partner recruitment? What can you automate in terms of the engagement process? Meaning we can go from having 3 cams who have 10 partners to 5 cams who have 100 partners, because you want to automate as much of the process and leave the people focused on the people management, the relationship aspect, and automate almost everything else.
Yeah, and I think there indeed one of the things that I would also like to add is how crucial it is to have a strong end user awareness and demand generation process. Because if all your recruitment at scale needs to be outbound, it's going to be very expensive to have your channel team do that. Well, if you have very strong end user awareness, partners start hearing about you everywhere in the market as well, and you'll get a lot of inbound recruitment as well. And I think that's where it becomes very interesting, because you get the best of both worlds there, where your partner managers are proactively working on certain accounts to get them on board as partners, but also that you're starting to create your own funnel where partners request you to become a partner.
Yeah, and you need an acceleration model within the partner, right? So the partners have to generate success with end users quickly and easily and at scale. And so one of the things that I very often push back on when people say, yep, this year we're going to quadruple the amount of partners that we have. Fine, that's acceptable. But how much extra end user business is going to be asked for? Not pushed, but pulled. If end users are asking for your product all the time, great, then you can probably afford to recruit lots of partners. But if you're going to recruit 100 extra partners and hope that all of them at scale, fairly automated, are going to be proactively positioning your product into the end user base, you're insane. It will never happen. I've never seen it happen. You need to be ensuring that the partners have demand generation tools, ideally automated ones, and have a vehicle that lots of end users are asking those partners, because that's how you guarantee success. I stress this. It is no good recruiting 100 partners and 80 of them churning. You will just have wasted 12 months of resource. Instead, if you're not confident you can recruit 100 partners and they'll all be successful, just recruit less. You're going to generate more success that way.
Yeah, I think to summarize this phase, if you really want to recruit at scale, you need to make sure that you have a strong end user brand, because that will bring in new partners, but also really help you to drive deals together with the partners and make them successful. You need your partner program as automated as possible. So as the third point then, so your people can really focus on building the relationships and work on the sales deals, because that's where you want your channel team to work the most. And therefore, point 2 is so crucial, that you have your training, your onboarding, your co-marketing, co-selling as easy as possible and as automated as possible.
Yeah, I think a good barometer of a well-designed partner program is how much fun channel account managers have. If they really enjoy their job because they're spending their time networking and doing sales presentations and driving deals, that's awesome. That means you've got a really well-designed partner program. If they're chasing through orders and they're apologizing for lots of bad deals and they're not sure where the content is and they're getting lots of basic FAQs, well, then your partner program is not well designed. So a really good place to see if you're ready for hyperscale, go quiz your channel account managers on what do you spend your time doing. If you find that they are taking their partners out for beers and they're having a really good time, good. Probably means you've got a relatively well-designed partner program and you've automated a lot of that. It probably means you're ready for the next level.
Yeah, I really like that one. Indeed, like asking them, how are you spending your time, to also analyze, are we really like, if they have to spend a lot of the time, all the time, on getting the partners into the trainings, to do marketing together, etc., then there's probably a lot of efficiency improvements to make there.
Yeah, if they're spending their time doing manual actions that aren't people orientated, you haven't automated your partner program to a level that will satisfy hyperscale. Because if you don't have that ready and you hit hyperscale, your channel account managers are all going to quit, because suddenly they're going to hate their jobs because they've got such inbound requests from partners that hasn't been automated away.
Yeah, very good one. I think to come back to the question which we started with, when should I recruit new partners? In phase 1 of your maturity model, when you're starting up, you should not recruit new partners if your partner program is not enabling multiple partners already to be successful. In the second phase, when you're finding partner market fit, you should really calculate it in such a way where you look at the end user market and then calculate backwards, combined with your revenue target, how many partners you actually need for every market vertical and region you're aiming for. And then for mass recruitment, you need to make sure that you really have your automation and processes in place together with a strong end user brand, and then you can start recruiting at scale. And for our listeners that are interested in this topic, we are hosting a webinar on the 5th of April, especially about how to recruit partners, when to recruit partners, and how many. We've got Jay McBain there, we got Ben Wright there, we've got Niels Bergmans there, I'm joining, and it's hosted by Bart. So it's really going to be a very fun session. And if you go to Chanix.com and then to the webinar section, you can register and follow the full discussion there. I'd like to thank you, Alex, for being a part of today's discussion again. And I'd like to thank our listeners, of course, and see you next week.